Hey guys, how's it going? I'm going to try and make this a little quick. I know I normally don't feature Tim Pool on here, and for y'all who know why, you know why. If you don't, you don't. I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty details of all that. Look, Tim Pool does great work. He really does. Okay? I had a problem with his hypocrisy over Twitter, and, you know, until he admits he was wrong about that, I just really don't want to have much to do with him. But in this scenario, guys, I can't help but admire how badly Lance gets destroyed. If y'all don't know who Lance is from the Serfs, he is one of the griftiest grifters on this entire platform. He's worse than Cenk Uygur. He's worse than the Young Turks in general. He's worse than Steve Shives. He's worse than any person who is just going to make crap up to make themselves feel better. With how often he ends up making crap up in his head about how things should work to justify how things should work, it's ridiculous. You'll see what I mean, because I'm going to be playing the videos. But before I get into it, guys, I got a music channel. I'm going to be reviewing this pedal, the Eris pedal, and the lore. And, oh, man, the artwork on these pedals are absolutely incredible. I cannot wait to show you guys it. I'll unbox them here soon. They are going to be absolutely amazing. It's wonderful stuff, guys. You're going to want to see it, I promise. I'm going to be doing cover songs. I do demo my amplifiers, guitars, guitar tutorials, all that good stuff. I'll have the Lizard Queen here done literally today, and it should be uploaded either Sunday or Monday, which is going to be awesome. Then the Northern Mauler after that. So, guys, please subscribe. I need to get to 1,000 subscribers ASAP. We've gone from like 650 to 750 subs in the course of like a couple days. If we can hit that 1,000 sub mark, guys, it will be the backbone for this channel. It will support this channel fully. It will really help out a lot. I really appreciate it, guys. Link up there in the top right corner or down in the description below. Thank you all again, and let's get into the video.
Hold on. Colorado legalized abortion in up to 9 months with no medical reason required. Do you agree with that?
I agree with that decision, yes.
So the baby could survive on its own, and the mother is legally now allowed to just end its life.
She has the right if she wanted to. You're saying so in Colorado, and
it's not a trick question. You're
I know, but I'm asking you because you're the one who brought this up. I don't know what Colorado's specific law says. So if you were saying that in Colorado, women have the ability at 9 months to have an abortion for any reason, they could just decide that
elective, yeah.
Okay, I think they should have the right to do that, but the stats show that they're not doing that.
It doesn't matter if the stats show they're doing that or not. Why even allow it? I don't understand. They got what they wanted. They got the termination done. Why then do you get to decide if it lives or not afterwards? I don't understand. And let's say they don't. Let's say they decide that, hey, you know what? Before this comes out of me, I want it to be. Why? What business is it of theirs? I don't understand that. So if you can pull that child out, child's just fine. You got your termination. You don't have to go through the pregnancy anymore. It's done. Why not send her on her way? Baby gets put up for adoption or something. Why do it any other way? But he seems to think that, well, I don't agree with it, but she should be allowed to. Well, then you agree with it. Don't sit there and say you don't. I mean, it's total trash. It's just so ridiculous to see Lance make these garbage arguments because he doesn't know what he's talking about. He has no clue. He seems to have this fantasy in his head that a doctor can just make a pregnancy disappear. As if like, okay, we're going to stop it. Everything's going to reverse. Your belly's just going to go back down. Nothing has to come out. It all just evaporates into thin air. It's not how it works, man. Not even close to how it works. This is such a stupid argument from his perspective. And we're going to get into some stuff where Tim really makes a hypocrite out of him. Now, I wanted to cover the other stuff, like the guy in the subway. I want to do a separate video on that and just show a clip from Tim Pool. And I won't get too much into his arguments with it. I just want to make fun of it, but also really make it the main video. But this needed its own video fully for the care and the way to pick it apart, because Tim unfortunately does talk past him a couple of times and isn't able to iterate his point perfectly in ways that I think having some hindsight and time to review and be like, this is how I would have said it given the moment. Like, I don't know that I could have said it in the moment any better than him, but now that I've had time to digest and watch it, I'm like, okay, this is how this should be told to Lance so he understands it a little better. Or maybe I would have came up with it right then and there. I don't know, because I wasn't there. So I couldn't know if in the heat of the moment if I would have come up with this in my head or not. But let's keep watching and see what all happens.
But they should have a legal right to do that. Yes, it's their body, it's their choice, of course.
So this is what I disagree on. I think if the baby needs to be removed from the woman, there's no reason to kill it. You know what I mean? Like you could just C-section and then put it up for adoption.
But I'm telling you that doesn't happen.
But
it does happen, dude. It happens with people with a little few two extra chromosomes. When a woman ends up finding out, hey, my kid's not going to come out right, they want to terminate and start over. Okay? Look, that's a tough decision. And I know the woman's like, I shouldn't have to be subjected to raising this really, really hard life. I don't have the money for this and all that. It's like, fine. Give them up for adoption then. Why in the life? I don't understand that portion.
Does. But hold on.
Like you might be able to bring up anecdotes, but the stats don't say that.
But hold on. Like, why allow it to happen? I just don't understand. Are you arguing? Hold on.
And this is the point too. He's saying, well, it doesn't happen. We don't have to worry about it. Then why let it be legal? Okay, that's like saying you should be legally allowed to, at any given point in time, you should be allowed to end your child. You get tired of it, you don't want to deal with it anymore, you should just be legally allowed to end the life of the child. Okay? Why would we ever legalize that? Why in the world would we ever do such a thing? It doesn't make any sense. Okay? Why legalize it? Well, no one's going to do that until somebody does. And then when somebody does do it, guess what? They don't get punishment for it. That's the point, Lance. The point of making something illegal to start with. Let's say nobody does it, but we later find out it's like, hey, this probably isn't a good idea to just let people do. So why allow it to happen in the first place? You know what I'm saying? That'd be like saying a mass event at a mall isn't made illegal in any way, shape, or form. There's no laws against it. Don't you think it's probably a good idea that even though one hasn't happened yet in this theoretical world, that maybe we should go ahead and put the law into place just in case it does, so we have something to charge them with? That way, we know if it does happen, at least this sick person isn't able to get out and do it again. To me, that's common sense, dude. If it's like, hey, this could happen, if somebody's come up with the idea of it and goes, maybe we should make that illegal, maybe we should do that in case it happens. It's not to necessarily even prevent him from doing it per se. It helps, but it's to make sure that that same person can never do anything like that again. Do you know how many instances that I've seen just in recent time? Actually, just this latest one. With the 7 people that were murdered in Oklahoma? Just Henrietta, not that far away from me. That guy was going to court for having CP on his hard drive. He was a registered offender. And unfortunately, he had many young children with him. There was him and his wife and 5 young children who perished. Why was he allowed to do that? See, things like that happen. We're supposed to have laws for a reason. When he breaks one of those laws, he's supposed to go away, and unfortunately, somehow, some way, he got out. And he was able to do it again. That's the problem. Sometimes even laws don't work very well. But the thing about it is that we have to at least try. This man was able to murder 5 children after he had his way. Okay? That's what happened with him. Why in the world do you want to just leave it open and legal for someone to do it to where there's no consequences? See, this guy had somewhat consequences even. He was supposed to go to court over it, and then they were going to determine if he was going back to prison or not, which I think is a stupid thing. Don't give a man a court date like that unless it's something different. Like, if it's over the subject of murder, or if it's over the subject of what he's done with children, or forcing women in general, I think those 3 things constitute you being held in a cell. And I know a lot of people would disagree with that, but those are some serious crimes, and especially if there's some serious evidence. I think it's perfectly fine to be like flight risk, or this person may continue doing something. I think it's perfectly acceptable. Of course, for other instances, it's not. But in that situation, had this man been locked up, especially for having multiple charges of CP found on his computer and a few other charges, which he's been in prison for abuse and stuff like that, I have no idea in any way, shape, or form how this man couldn't have been behind bars pending trial. Just doesn't make sense. But anyway, enough of that case. Let's get into more hypocrisy here. And I believe the next one I wanted to show... Well, let me see if I was done with
Arguing
this.
you oppose it, and you think it's morally wrong, but you think it should be legal?
I think that women should have the right to decide what they do and have bodily autonomy over their own bodies.
We're not talking about her body. We're talking about...
It is her body.
We're
Of course
talking
it is. At 9 months, even if it's still inside her, it's still her body. Even if it's a...
It's not her body. There is a separate body. Dude, this is what's crazy, okay? For it to be her body, listen, it's very simple, okay? It has to be doing something for you for it to be your body. If you have a body inside of your body, that does not make it your body anymore, okay? The body inside the body is obviously a body inside of a body. It's very simple, okay? To a degree, I understand where you'd be coming from before 12 weeks, even before 20 weeks. I can kind of understand. Somewhat. But when the baby can just be ripped out after 24 weeks and put in a tube and live, it's no longer her body. That's the whole point. It's no longer her body. No woman should ever have the say of what happens to a baby after 24 weeks, period. No woman should have the say, yes, I want it to stop breathing. Sorry, but if it's capable of breathing on its own, you have no right to stop it. That's called murder. It's that simple. It's absolutely ridiculous to even make the argument. Ever. There is no argument for it. It's just so stupid. They can go there and they can get their termination. Okay? After the termination's done, woman leaves, none of your business what happens afterwards. You have decided it's over with and you've cut ties. Well, then it's over with and cut ties. Leave. Our systems should be doing what they can to save the child, put it up for adoption, do whatever they can. That's what should happen. At that point, it's none of the mother's business anymore. She's no longer the mother. She can leave. Anyway, I want to get more into some of the more important stuff here. I think it was at 15 minutes here.
Give birth and then give the baby up, is what you're saying.
Give birth. Define.
Yes. Okay. So that is forced birth, right?
So
she can't decide
yes.
to terminate it.
Okay, this is what's hilariously stupid. He's trying to describe to Tim that you all are forced birthers. I'm sorry, but nobody forced you to get pregnant. Well, unless in the instance that is. But she should get that taken care of way before freaking 9 months. It wouldn't matter in that point. But you go up to 9 months. Nobody forced you to carry for 9 months. And then you go and decide to get a termination done? Sorry, no. At that point, how do you think the baby comes out? Because he's like, well, she should be allowed to just terminate in the life. Then it's no longer a forced birth. Okay, do you think the baby just disappears inside of her at that point? Is that how you think it works, Lance? Because it doesn't. Guess what? Mama's still got to give birth. Whether it's a live baby, whether it's not a live baby, whether it's a termination or not, no matter what, she does have to give birth. Unless it's like, okay, well, would you like us to stick a drill up in there and pull it out chunk by chunk? Is that what you want? Is that how you think that should go? Because if we're doing that, then I would argue that, okay, terminations need to stop, period. No more. Because that's grotesque and I don't even know how else to say it. It's insane.
8 or 9 months.
Define give birth.
You just said at 8 months if the baby is viable.
I didn't say 8 months. Define give birth. I'm trying to understand what you're saying by forced birth. What does birth mean?
You just said when she is at 8 or 9 months. Okay, so she's at 8 or 9.
I said viable.
Okay, so it's viable. The baby's viable. She should have to give birth to it in some capacity. C-section, whatever.
Define birth, and I can answer your question.
Birth, the removal of a child into the world from a mother's womb.
If the baby...
The removal of a child into the world from the mother's womb. Boy, that sounds an awful like a termination, doesn't it? But now that's considered forced birth. Good job, Lance. Do you ever think before you say anything? Seriously? Like, that was one of the most idiotic arguments I could have ever heard. Idiotic arguments. The only way I could have ever supported your statement is if they're forcing her to push the baby out, no C-section, nothing else. Okay? Then I could have been like, okay, I understand what you're saying somewhat, even though in most cases of terminations, mom still has to push just like a normal birth. Don't know if you know that or not. That's the way they're typically done. Unless she wants the C-section. Okay? Most doctors are very hesitant to give a C-section, though. Because once a C-section is done, you can never push. Well, not always. But you usually can never push again. So doctors are always hesitant, and they always advise, hey, we got to go ahead and push this out naturally, no matter what, because it is ultimately going to save your ability to have kids in the future. Now, if they say, I don't want kids in the future at all, zip, rip it open. Now, here's another problem, though. Most women don't want the scar because it's not very attractive. So most women are going to try and do what they can to make sure they don't get that anyway. All in all, Lance, you're making up terms, and that's an issue. There's no such thing as forced birth. There's no such thing as forced birth. That is idiotic. There's forced pregnancies. And then there's normal pregnancies. Both of those can result in a termination before birth would ever be necessary. The problem is if they go all the way up to 8 or 9 months, there is no choice. It's not a forced birth. It's just there's no other freaking way to do it, dude. The baby inside does not disappear. And even if you want to scramble the thing up like some scrambled eggs, when it comes out, it's still the same exact way that a birth takes place. So you're an idiot for suggesting that.
Hey, so how do they do that?
The woman pushes the baby out.
So then what would you call an abortion at 8 months? Is the woman pushing the baby out?
No, it's most likely a medical procedure done by a doctor.
And what?
A medical procedure done by a doctor. How? What do you think he does? Stick a vacuum up in there? Like, I don't understand. Lance, how do you think this thing's coming out? Are you insane? You have zero understanding of how any of this works, and yet you want to be an expert on this, and you want to sit there and be an activist for it and say women should have the right to do this. That'd be like literally saying people should have the right to just drive their car to the moon. Okay, Lance, how do they do that? Well, I don't know. They should have a right to do it. Is it possible to do that? I don't know. Well, then why should people have the right to do it if it's literally physically impossible? Do you not understand that? You're making up crap. It doesn't make sense. It's not real.
What is that medical procedure?
An abortion.
But what is that?
What is an abortion?
Yes.
See, Tim, you should say, how do they conduct that? Not, what is that? That's something that you really should have clarified a little better. How do they perform one?
Like what?
How is it done?
Yes.
I'm not entirely sure how it's done in 8 months. I know earlier on it's usually done with a series of tools. I don't know how it's done.
A series of tools, but what are those tools for, man? Do they open her up more? Do they cut into her? If you don't know, why are you making any kind of like stance on this?
Okay, so your moral argument is forced birth. I'm trying to understand what your position is. If you don't know how...
What you're trying to understand is what does he mean by a forced birth and what does he mean by a termination? That's what we're trying to figure out. What is the difference between the two? But you're not clarifying that, Tim, and that's his confusion. Although I don't think he's actually confused by that. I think he's playing you to try and be like, okay, since you're not making sense, I could take advantage of this. Honestly, that's what I think is really going on. But, you know, it's just one of those things that the clearer you are, the less wiggle room Lance has.
How an abortion is done, then are you in favor of forced birth?
Am I in favor of forced? No, I'm against forced birth.
But you think that women should have to expel the baby, right?
It's completely fine for me not to know the medical procedure of how abortion is done to stand.
No. See, he had to jump into this because then he started to realize what Tim Pool meant. It's okay for me to not understand how it's done. No, it's not, Lance. It's not okay for you to take a position and not know the mechanics. It is not okay. Let's say you're in a nuclear power plant. You don't know how the nuclear power plant works, but you're going to sit there and take a stance on how something should be ran? Are you completely insane? You'll blow up an entire city. That is the most ridiculously stupid take I have ever heard him give. You cannot give a stance on something you are not educated in. Educate yourself first before you decide that you can make a decision and that you can stand by somebody else's decision because you have no idea if that person's educated in it or not. It is utterly stupid. This is how societies fail. Societies fail whenever they decide to take up arms for something they know nothing about. And that's what's frustrating. Look at what we're doing in Ukraine right now. Nobody knows anything about the corruption, it seems, that's been taking place. At least the left doesn't at all. Yet they're pushing and pushing to defend that country. When in reality, our government is just using that country to make tons and tons of money. There is no saving the people of Ukraine like that. Nobody's interested in our government in actually saving Ukraine. And yet our people are sitting there going, oh my gosh, we need to save them. We need to save them. This is horrendous and da-da-da-da-da. And, you know, they just go on and on and on and on about, oh, what the heck was in my pocket here? Big piece of paper. Uh-oh. Oh, it was the zoo map. And I'm going to the zoo today, too. Ooh. Had one washed in my pocket. That's great. That's been in there for a couple months. Anyway, sorry to get off track with that. But anyway, that's my whole point is, guys, we're going, like a lot of people are going in there defending this when our government doesn't even have Ukraine's interest in mind at all. They're just going to bleed those people out. Casualties be damned. And hey, at least we got a bunch of resources from them. And then we're going to leave them bone dry when we're done. And at the end of the day, all the leftists are going to be like, well, how did we let this happen? Well, guys, we tried to tell you. And that's the position that Lance has taken. This is why left-wing people are completely insane, and they need to stop being so freaking emotional. They need to start looking into stuff before they start spouting off about it. Because it's this level of stupidity that is the downfall of our society.
Stand up for the rights of a woman's body. I don't need to know how people perform abortions directly. I'm not going to lie here. I'm not going to pretend.
Removing a baby from a woman's body is birth.
Oh, so you're saying it doesn't count?
No.
That's correct, actually. It doesn't count. Because, Lance, the only way to get the child out of that body is 3 ways. You scramble it up, you pull it out, it's the same thing as birth. You push the whole thing out, it's the same thing as birth. C-section, same thing as birth. It's all the same, okay? And a woman has to go through all the same crap that she normally would during birth. Unless you literally rip the child apart piece by piece. But let me tell you something. If you think that that's not painful, if that's a less painful way for that to happen, piece by piece, hour-long surgery there, versus just shoving the child out, there's no better. There's no doing it better. That's the way it is. Okay? In the end, it's all the same mechanisms for the most part as birth. The baby has to exit. The only way that you would even be remotely correct, if this were possible, is if the doctor gave mama a pill and that baby just disappeared. Unfortunately, that's not reality. So you need to know what you're talking about, first and foremost. Now, where's the rest of this?
Out somehow.
So you're going to take it out with a C-section?
No, I don't know.
Okay.
But I'm trying to figure out what you mean by this.
So that would be forced birth. So she's forced to give and make a viable child, live in the real world.
I mean,
outside of her
when
body.
you're pregnant, the baby's going to come out of you at some point.
That's the
Either
point.
we rip
no
it
matter
apart
what
or
happens,
you give birth
the baby
naturally.
is coming out of the woman, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So there's no being in favor of that or not. It happens. Period.
Yes.
Okay. So what's your point?
What's my point?
Am I in favor of a natural process by which a woman
See, Lance just doesn't understand. He's pretending to not understand. I think at this point it should have clicked with him by now. So let's get to the next point.
When they perform the abortion, as Seamus explained, they stick metal tools into the
Agreed on that point.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
here we
that
go.
Die, they survive, right? So my question is, in the instance of a failed abortion, what should be done?
A failed abortion being that the child is living, it's
Yes.
outside of the mother.
Yeah.
At that point, you cannot kill that child. That would be murder.
There you go, Lance. It's finally clicked in your head. Finally, after all of this time, you somewhat understand. It only took way too freaking long. Why am I clipping? Okay, good. It only took way too long for you to finally understand this, dude. If the baby is outside of the mom and is still alive, it would be bad to end it. But there's some caveat here.
Oh, okay.
Agreed on that point.
Right.
Yeah.
So then where does the mother's choice come in to kill?
Before that procedure takes place.
So
She has a choice to choose what she wants to have done with her body. If
It's not her body anymore, dude. They're talking about the fetus. Pull it out, and it's done. I'm done with this argument. He's an idiot. Now I'm going to get to get up to this point here.
Senate, he voted against it.
Obama voted against it.
Against it,
But you
yes.
would be in favor of that.
in favor of what?
The Born Alive Act.
I'm not completely familiar with it, so I'd have to read
If an
up on it
infant is
first.
born alive after an attempted abortion, it has the same protection of law and degree as a newborn.
Yeah, I would be okay with that because at
Okay. Well, Obama voted against it, so there you go. Good job.
that it is completely acceptable for something like I don't know what the name of the service is in the United States.
Child services?
I can
Child
see-
Here we go. I was a little too far.
Like, should she be allowed to do meth?
Yeah.
I think if someone is doing meth while they're pregnant, that it is completely acceptable for something like I don't know what the name of the service is in the United States.
Child services?
I can
Child-
see
child
CFS
services?
would be.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's her body, though.
Yeah, it's her body.
If she wants to do meth, what's the big deal?
The big deal is that she's intentionally trying to kill a child.
Hold on there a minute.
Yeah, and I see where we're going.
I
Good job, Lance. Good job, buddy. Oh, man. This guy, he needs to pay attention a little bit better.
don't understand what you're saying. It's her body.
It's her
if
body.
She wants to do meth. What's the problem?
Well, first off, doing meth is illegal, period. Doesn't matter if you're doing it with a child or without a child.
Okay, first of all, no, it's not. It is not illegal to do or take any form of drug. It's illegal to be in possession. Okay? It is illegal to be doing the act in public. But if you're in your own home and you take it, and then there's no evidence of any of it, and you're walking around, and now public intox, don't get me wrong, is bad. You can't do that. But it's not actually a crime for you to be under the substance of anything. It's actually just a blanketed law of you cannot be publicly intoxicated. So they're not going to sit there and be like, okay, well, you're high on meth, so therefore you're going to jail with a harsher charge. No, it's just a public intox charge, no matter what. Okay? They're not able to prove exactly what it is you're on, and even if they were, they don't know how much you took. It doesn't matter. So they have to give that blanket charge. That's just the way things are. Now, in some places, they've decriminalized it. But here's the problem. You painted yourself into a corner where, okay, well, the law says this, so therefore, are you going to just go with the law no matter what? You're not able to think for yourself? What if it's completely legalized? Oh, well, then it's just fine. Oh, it's legal now, so I guess so. That's his point is, well, it's illegal, so you can't do that. Well, okay, what if it was legal? Well, then I guess you can do that. Okay, do you not have any morality here, man? Can you not think for yourself of what should or should not be illegal? This is why people like this shouldn't be talking about laws and stuff and should not be talking about politics, because if you're not capable of thinking about how something should or should not be done, then what is your point of sticking up for it? Why do you stick up for something and then the moment it changes, you flip your mind? You flip your stance. That's completely idiotic. It doesn't make sense to do that.
Not in Oregon.
methyl and MDMA. It's a type
Maybe
of
it's
meth.
alcohol
Wait,
then.
sorry, what?
Not crystal meth.
Crystal meth
There's
is legal in
different kinds
Oregon?
of-
No, it's
not crystal.
Hold on a second.
MDMA is a kind of meth. Methyl and methamphetamine is ecstasy. That's a kind of meth. There's also crystal meth, which is not legal. MDMA is legal in some places.
Sorry, decriminalizing possession is different than legalizing crystal meth.
No, it's not. Everything starts off legal, you moron. And this is a point I wanted to get to, because he's like, decriminalizing is so different than legalizing. No. Legalizing is actually not a proper term. Legalizing is not a thing that we do. You decriminalize, because everything starts off as legal. You make laws to make things illegal. There is no such thing as a law that legalizes something. That's not possible. That's a double negative, okay? Everything is legal to start. Okay? You have to make it illegal. And the process of taking away that law, making things from illegal to legal again, is to decriminalize. That's what it is. So it's a little silly when people do say that, but he tries to make it different. Here's the point, though. All semantics aside, to decriminalize means to legalize. It's the same thing. Because if it's no longer criminal, then it's legal. What a dumb statement, though.
Those two things are completely different, right?
What's the question of whether you can press charges?
Hold on.
Yeah.
What?
So when you decriminalize a small amount of drugs, that means if you're caught with that drugs by a cop,
then he's not going to get you in trouble because it is not criminal. Do you not understand that? You see, if it's illegal for me to carry around a 3-inch blade here, they made it legal. Well, then they decriminalized it. A cop catches me with this. That means he's not going to do anything because it's legal. It was decriminalized. So legally, I can have it. Why would he still charge me if it's not criminal to have it, you idiot? It is the same thing. They're not two different things. That is an utterly stupid comment. Well, it was decriminalized, which means what? I can go to jail for it? No, it means it's not criminal. I cannot be charged with a crime because it is no longer criminal. I can't believe this guy says stuff without ever thinking about it. Anyway, that's the points I wanted to make for this. I'm sorry about this video going on for so long, but oh my God. This guy needs to stop. This is why I have a problem with Lance in the Serfs. This is why I don't like this guy's channel at all. This is why I don't pay too much attention to him in any way, shape, or form. I will argue on points with TYT, stuff like that, because they don't go around and saying completely idiotic stuff like this. Their points... I'm not trying to sit here and defend Jank Yuger or anything like that. I'm not trying to make him legit either. The guy is absolutely insane, and he twists stories up. He can twist stories up pretty crazy. But twisting a story isn't necessarily just flat out making crap up. Lance takes that extra step, where if he's not sure about something, he'll just make something up off the top of his head and go with it. TYT typically just conveniently leaves out details. They didn't make anything up. They didn't tell any lies. They just didn't tell the whole truth. And that drives me nuts. But at least they didn't say anything that was completely untrue, and I can at least argue with them and be like, you left these details out. Lance will make up an entire story and then just pretend like, nope, that's absolutely real, and never back it. And that's the problem. Like now, decriminalizing and legalizing are two completely different things, right? Who the hell told you that, and what are your definitions? Where did you see that? Because that is not true. Anyway, guys, that's all I have for you. Sorry to take up all your time here with this, but hey, hopefully it was worth it. Very interesting. I love seeing Lance get torn down. It's just, oh my God, this guy should never, ever do debates again for the sake of his channel. I hope this made him look terrible completely. I don't know the science of it. Guy advocating for, I mean, it's just, this guy argued. I wonder, is there anybody who's going to defend Lance in this, you know? This is why I no longer identify as pro-choice when it comes to blank, because stuff this guest is coming out with is just insane. Yeah, exactly. I love the way y'all without even knowing it, backed him into a perfectly set trap. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, this is the problem. It's super easy to back somebody into a trap if they're so poorly educated on what it is they're arguing for. If they have no education on what it is they are arguing for in any way, shape, or form, you don't even have to try. You just have to know some facts and be like, well, this is the facts of it, and they're going to stumble into their own trap. Anyway, guys, that's all I have to say about it. Thank you all for watching. Please go to the music channel and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Later.